How do you want to live your life? Have you thought about how you actually want to live your life? Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? Do you want to be your legacy? What are some of the highlights that you want to cover? What are some of the sensations that you want to have? What do you want your life to be about? In order to answer those questions, or maybe you have answered them in the past, you decided, well, I like to spend most of my time traveling, or I like to have a family, or I like to be a world-renowned best-selling author, or I like to save the world from, global warming, or find a cure for cancer, whatever it might be that you're looking for. So you might have thought about some of those milestones. However, even before getting to those milestones, what gets you there are your values. Values are this undercurrent that actually shape our lives. They create direction for our lives. The funny thing is that many of us, until we stop and think about our values, we haven't taken note of them. So we might say, oh, my value is loyalty, or my value is, I don't know, my value is adventure, or my value is a family. Some might think along those ways. But then if loyalty is your value, for example, but you can't seem to keep friends because somehow they always get mad at you because you're spreading rumors about them. Not rumors, but sharing their details with other people. They feel as if that was disloyal. So clearly there's a breakdown that we often have because we haven't done a little retrospective work to see, well, the last 10 years of my life have looked like this, which probably means that I have these or those values. And the thing is, that work of determining what your values have been to date shouldn't be a judgment call. You shouldn't feel threatened by it or just be excessively critical towards yourself about them. It's just a question of if that's what has been, do you want to continue that moving forward? Because the thing is, if it doesn't line up with where you want to be, we do need to create a change. So today, as we break through values, let's start with that. Where do you want to be? And then from where do you want to be? Then we have these core beliefs. And core beliefs to me are um, these obviously core beliefs can be unlimited. Values, I would say, please don't have more than 5 values because you're going to forget them. And if you need to update them every so often, then if you have 15 values, you're not going to have time to update them, and it's going to be really cumbersome for you. But core beliefs can be unlimited, and core beliefs actually change a great deal more flexibly than other things. And for core beliefs, what I'm actually interested in you finding out here is what are your limiting beliefs, which could go back to some of the values that you've had to date. Maybe it might be around aging, or it might be around types of relationships. It might be around even yourself, your capacity, your potential of who you are. Maybe some of the things that you've heard so many times over, even unconsciously, have now seeped into who you play out in this world versus what you actually want to be. So core beliefs can be a range of things. So don't worry about it. The nomenclature isn't important, but it is to decide, if you can use a pretzel wheel to help you walk through them in terms of family ties, what's a core belief for you there? In terms of nutrition, what's a core belief for you there that maybe if you have if you're vegan or have another restrictive dietary system. A core belief for you might be, I want to respect all living beings, but your value might be humanity, or it might be no cruelty, for example, and that could expand obviously to animals and could expand to all living creatures. So you can just play with that. So we have values, we have core beliefs, and then we have needs. I think the most famous philosopher, psychologist around needs is obviously Abraham Maslow's his hierarchy of needs. It has given us a marvelous framework to think about needs in terms of a progression. Clearly, if I'm starving, literally, I haven't had enough to eat, or I don't have enough to eat, I'm not thinking about self-actualization. It's just not in my frame of thought. I'm thinking about how do I survive to make it through the day. So there is a natural progression to needs, but thinking about Abraham's hierarchy, also take into account that even if you, for example, all your basic needs are met, more than likely, if you are advancing in life or if you want to continue to advance in life, you want these needs to continue to advance with you. So if you were able to buy just tomatoes, now you want to buy, ecological tomatoes that come from the farm next door, which are a little more pricey. So that means that your needs are also refining in their capacity as you evolve. But a funny thing about needs that I want you to consider is that there are many needs that we often uh, um, we often export to others as we want these needs to be met by other persons for us. However, there's an element that of all needs, all the needs that we have, and clearly there we are interconnected. We need people, but to treat ourselves and to manage ourselves, to actually give ourselves the first layer of all of our needs. I think that's really important in the sense of whatever my needs are, I'm giving myself the first layer. I'm not waiting on anyone to give me joy, respect, self-esteem, validation. I'm actually giving all of those to myself first. And everything else that comes from the exterior world is simply a validation to that. It's just icing on top. But if we do the contrary, if then we're waiting for everything or important things to come from the outside, it changes our locus of control clearly, and then it puts a dependency on the other person. And what if the other person or the people that you have around simply don't know that you have that need? You're basically living with a deficiency that you have to meet for yourself first to function. And then life is gracious and will add it to you from other means. So think about those needs that you have. And then we have wants. Wants. I want a house in the mountains. I want vacations in Tahiti. Our list of wants are limited depending on our capacity to imagine and to think and to wonder. But it's important to think about what we want in the sense of we often, especially when it comes to relationships, we generally attract what we are, not who we want to be. And it doesn't mean that you're in a process of change, as we all are in a process of change, but some moments of change are more drastic than others. But if I want someone that's tall, dark, and handsome and charming and da 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 da, the most logical thing is for me to be that. Otherwise, I'm not going to attract that. If I'm depressed and upset all the time and angry, I'm not, and I don't care for myself and my self-image, I'm not going to attract that. It's just we attract what we are, not what we hope to be. So working on congruence throughout this whole line is very important. So to give you some examples. So I have four key values. It's adventure, love, legacy, and oh, I'm going blank. Well, I'll remember that the last one right now when it gets legacy. Well, it doesn't matter. But so, for example, adventure. Liberty. Three L's and one A. Liberty. So liberty, for example, has shaped my relationships in the sense of, for me, liberty is really important in terms of the formats of relationships. Or, for example, adventure has led me to moving to different continents throughout my life. And so, what are your values and how do they shape your reality? How do they shape the world that you want to live in? So let's tackle the values tonight. I'll see you tomorrow.